Yes, I went in the hospital from an overdose. One of my friends found me in the bathroom floor and went into the hospital for an overdose. This is pre-Narcan days. When I went in, they found out that my liver was shot and my kidneys were shot, and so I spent 2.5 months in a hospital. Um,
Oh wow.
on dialysis, doing all kinds of stuff. The doctor said if you don't stop doing drugs, you're. And I wish I could pull up a multiple screen. I could show you what I look like. I'm 200 pounds now, and I was about 145 then. Um, I was sunk in, and he's like, if you don't stop doing what you're doing, he goes, you're gonna die. Um, that still didn't stop me, of course. That never does. That almost feeds fuel to the fire. Um, but so in 2017, I spent 2.5 months in the hospital. And throughout the years, I would say 2014 to 2019, like beginning of 2019, um, it was it was it was an interesting time in Seattle. Everybody was flocking to Seattle because as long as you lived on the streets and you were an addict, you could get free housing after a while. I mean, you had to be on the streets for a little bit before they give it to you. You can get free housing and all kinds of stuff. So everybody from all over the country would move to Seattle. With that being said, there was a lot of burglaries. There was a lot like in commercial buildings. There was a lot of which I was a part of. There was a Russian group that is was out in Seattle, and they were going to Centerpoint Energy out there and stealing copper off of the actual property on Centerpoint. They would get fake badges, Centerpoint badges, get fake Centerpoint uniforms, and get a van that had Centerpoint on the side, decal on the side, get on the property and steal rolls and rolls and rolls of copper worth like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Um, so I mean that was the kind of the daily norm out there for a lot of the drug addicts. If you weren't doing a Walter White and trying to make meth in your RV, then you're out stealing copper from some corporation, or you're in a commercial building and stealing commercial equipment and hawking it off, or something like that. It was a crazy, crazy time. Going through dumpsters and living in dumpsters. I almost got crushed by a trash truck. It was the winter time of 2018. I was trying to stay warm, so I got in a cardboard dumpster because that's one of the warmest places because cardboard gives off heat. And all I feel is the whole thing moving at like 3:30 in the morning. And when I popped the lid open, I was halfway up in the air, about ready to go into a trash truck. Um, so it was September of 2019. I decided, I said, this is enough is enough. It's the insanity level. People were leaving Seattle, getting clean. They were going to other states, doing their own thing. Um, Drugs were becoming harder to find. People were dying because fentanyl was making its way on the streets, and in more things. Like before, it was just fentanyl. Now you're getting fentanyl in meth and in coke and in weed and all that stuff. So I was like, I don't buy drugs to die. I mean, I'm gradually dying, but I mean, the thing of it is I don't want to overdose and die. That's not my thing. Um, so in September, the last day of September, I went to this uh, nonprofit organization in Seattle, and they bought me a bus ticket to anywhere I wanted to, but it was a one-way ticket, and I couldn't come back to Seattle unless it was to visit. I went to Idaho. I had a friend that stayed out there. Um, Moved to Idaho. So my sobriety date from heroin and meth is October 5th of 2019. Um, Once I got to Idaho, everything was great. Stayed clean, stayed sober, all that. Other than I drank. So then in 2020, you're learning to deal with life's problems, on life circumstances. It's you're before you're medicating with drugs. Now you're learning how to deal with it in a sober manner. So then I started drinking. I started getting to the point where I was drinking so heavy I was up to over a gallon a day of vodka. I chose vodka
Wow.
because if you drink vodka, you can't smell it. Well, if you drink a gallon of it, you sure can smell it. Um, yeah. That was something I had in my, if I drink vodka, they'll never smell it. Well, yeah, if you drink a gallon of it, you're gonna smell like a gas station. You smell like a gas pump. So 2020, I started drinking real heavy. June of 2020, I met the wife that I'm with now. I met her. Um, Answered an ad on the paper or on the internet, and we ended up meeting. Been together ever since. Haven't left. I was only supposed to go there for a couple of days, take a shower, get something to eat, and 6 years later, here I am. So it's one of those things. 2021, we moved to California. Her friend moved us out to California, and we stayed out there. I worked for two treatment centers, one in Malibu, California, and the other one in Beverly Hills, California. I think that's where my drinking really got out of hand, and then stayed out of hand at that point. I was working myself to a point where I saw myself in a lot of these people. Even though they were really rich people, I still saw myself. When they say even just because somebody's rich doesn't mean they're not like you, that's totally true. They're just like us. Um, so I started seeing myself, and I started seeing a lot of my imperfections and where I was. But I really wanted to be clean and sober because I'm working at a treatment center, and part of the deal was is they couldn't know that I was drinking. So part of the deal was is I had to hide it, and I really wanted to be clean from alcohol too, but I just couldn't do it. We stayed out in California until 2023. In February 23, my wife's aunt, which is where we live now in Shreveport, Louisiana, her aunt paid for us to be out here. She paid for all of our moving expenses. Uh, on my way out here, I got a job offer from an oil field company. Big mistake. The more money you make, the more hours you work, the more alcohol you drink. I was going to my room. You'd work 12 to 14 hours, and then I go to my room, I drink for 3 or 4 hours, pass out, and wake up and do it all over again. Um, so I worked the oil field for about a year and a half to summer 2024. Got injured. Um, Fortunately, I hadn't had anything to drink that day. So when I got injured, they do their drug test. I passed it. Um, Worked odd and end jobs from then, but still continued to drink a lot, like way too much. I was hiding it. I was doing, putting it in the dryer washer, back seat, front seat, wherever, in the gutter, wherever I could find to put it. Uh, just hiding it from my wife. In July of 25, July 25th of 25, I got pulled over for DUI. I went to work. I was out of town driving truck because I had to have a CDL for the oil field part of the requirement. So I had a CDL. During that time, I had obtained a job after I left the oil field driving a truck. Um, uh, this very specific moment or this time, this day, I was in South Texas when I woke up in San Antonio. I was doing deliveries. I was coming back and I had to be back that day because it was a Friday. Um, so I'm doing deliveries. Worked 19 hours. Once I got off, dropped my truck off. Um, I went to the liquor store and bought a bottle. Bought, I don't know. It was probably about half a gallon, I guess it was. Um, and from where I bought it to where my house is, probably about a 35-minute drive, something like that. In that time, I drank that entire bottle on my way home. Um, Got home. This is the kicker. Got home, safe, no problems. Got to my house, and I was like, I don't have any alcohol. I think I'm gonna go to the liquor store. So I went to the liquor store, got more. On my way back, that's when I got popped for a DUI. Um, Probably the best thing that ever happened to me. Um, Went to jail, got out, went to jail on a Friday, got out on a Sunday. Um, Went to a treatment center, which is I work there now. It's my second job. At Uprising Treatment Center here in Shreveport. Stayed there. Um, Got help. It took me 2.5 days to pass the breathalyzer test. Because you have to stay in detox until you pass the breathalyzer, and I couldn't pass it for 2.5 days. So, Stayed there 28 days, did outpatient with the same company. In February, no, in March, I got a job with the company, with Uprising. Went to start school. In September, I go to Grand Canyon University to become a counselor. I'm getting my Bachelor of Science degree in counseling. I work two jobs. I work a day job, and I also work for Uprising at my night job. Just wrote a book. It's published. It's out on Amazon right now. I'm trying to get it on some more platforms. I'm also trying to get it in the audiobook as well. Uh, Hopefully within the next month and a half, 2 months, I start my own podcast too. So, I mean, great things are happening. There's a lot of great things that are happening. And today marks my 365 days is today. So today is my first day or my first year of
Oh,
sobriety.
wow. Congratulations.
Yeah. I was thinking about that the other day. I was thinking about that today. I was like, maybe it was meant to do this podcast today because today marks 1 year. So I think that's what it is. But yeah, so today's my 1 year anniversary from being clean from liquor, and it feels good. I've accomplished so much more, way more than I could ever even imagine. It is possible if you work your program, and it can be any way, just as long as you're not drinking or using. If you work your program and you are honest and you do what you're supposed to do, I mean, a lot of things are possible. I mean, I wrote a book. I never wrote a book. I don't even like reading books. So, but yeah, it's like,
Did your wife
it's
know
just,
you were drinking at all, or?
she found out. Well, I mean, because she would drink with me, but not like heavily. But that amount, she didn't know until I
Okay.
went to treatment. She didn't know until I went. Actually, oh, I'm sorry. It was right before treatment. It was right before
Okay.
treatment. It was when I got back from because when I got out of jail, for the DUI. When I got out of jail, that was Sunday. That Monday, I went back to work to that company that I was driving for. And I wanted to do one last run because I still had a CDL. I think I had a CDL for another couple weeks. Um, so I wanted to do one more run. And when I did that one more run, I didn't actually I didn't even start it. I made it because it was in Central Texas. I made it to there, got really drunk there. And I'm already being charged with a DUI. And now I'm drinking in an 18-wheeler. Um, and called my wife and told her the next day. I called and told her. I said, "Listen," I said, "I can't do this." And I told her everything. I told her, I'm drinking a gallon plus a day, and I'm doing all this stuff. And she goes, "I didn't even know you were doing this." She goes, "I had no clue." Because I grew up in an alcoholic family, so I could hide alcohol to a certain point, of course, but I mean there was obviously to a point where there was too much and then it was obvious. But yeah, I mean I could drink several pints and still get away with it. But um yeah, she didn't find out until after I got out of jail and before I went to treatment, and then that's when she found out. So
So has she been a pretty good support then, or?
oh, absolutely. Her mom, her aunt, and her, and the guy that did my intake, Rick at Uprising. Me and him are best friends now. I'm actually going on a couple weeks. I'm going on a retreat with him. Him and his church. He has got my back 100%. I was on another podcast beginning of July. I made really good friends with the guy that runs that podcast. And we talk to each other every day just about. Um, yeah, I've got a great support system. He's out in Ohio, so I've got a support system all over the country. My family finally started to talk to me again after years and years and years not talking to me. I think I was probably a teenager the last time I talked to my family would talk to me. You know, my family started
Oh,
talking to me
wow.
again. Yeah, so I mean, they could read right through it. They could see. I mean, even though we didn't have cell phones and internet and all the social media and stuff, they would see pictures, and they could see pictures. I mean, when you're doing drugs, it shows, especially the drugs that I was doing: heroin, meth, crank. Those are all drugs that don't make you look very good. So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
we
so
do here what's called the Integrative Therapeutic Community Program. And so we
oh,
have sober living for 1 year, and then we have inpatient for 1 year. And it's amazing when the guys want to change, what a change you can see in 1 year, and the reuniting of
Oh,
their family and their children. And
well, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is people are like, well, is it possible for me? I'm like, well, I don't know. Is it possible for you? You have to be the one that wants it. You have to be the one that wants to do it. And it's just like, and not only with the sobriety, but what you do while you're, going through your sobriety. Like with me, for instance, and I'll take me for an example because I've done so much. With my sobriety, I give back now. I work in a treatment center. I give back. I've written a book, which my book is directed towards the addicts that are suffering, to show them where I come from and what I went through and how I did it. I've got guys that are at the treatment center that have bought my book and they come up and shake my hand and give me hugs and all kinds of stuff and tell me, that they really appreciate it. That the guy that's taking care of them morning, noon, and night um, has lived the life, and I'm not just talking it. I'm going to school, so it's what you do with your sobriety too. Because I've been sober before. I think a lot of us have. We've been sober several times. It's just what we did with the time that we were sober um, really dictates how well you stay sober, how long you stay sober. If you're not out there doing service work, if you're not out there helping somebody, if you're not out there helping yourself, uh, you sitting around being stagnant, I mean, you might say so, but I mean, odds are against you. I mean, they really are. They're against me every time.
well, and that's here what we do is a lot of cognitive, because if you've been doing something for 20 years, there's a lot of behaviors that have to change along with that.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure you've seen that too. It took me a year to act normal after I quit, because you forget how to
Hmm.
be social without being on drugs or alcohol.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing is like, I'm going to be meeting with a guy on Monday because like my communication skills are so up because I started drugs. I read a book one time that your brain stops growing the time that you start doing drugs. Hell, I started doing drugs when I was 10 years old. So, I mean, and so my communication skills, I always thought I was savvy and I could talk to people. Then I got sober and I started looking and thinking about it. I'm like, I really don't have good I mean, I don't really have that good of communication skills because I've never really I've always separated myself from people. The only people I ever hung out with was the ones that they stayed, they were awake no longer than 5 minutes and then they were nodding out. So we never had any communication. Um, so I'm learning, and especially doing a podcast, you have to know how to communicate and you have to keep communication going. And so it's very important. And so that's what I'm going to be working on. That is, learning how to communicate to people, and not only communicating, but communicating to a point where people understand.
What is the name of your book?
It's called Breaking the Chains. And it's right now they have it on Amazon Kindle. Um, they have the ebook for $9.99. The paperback $14.99. And the hardback is $20.99. Um, and we're trying to get it on multiple platforms, Apple and so many others. Uh, right now, it's available in United States, Canada, South America, Asia, and Europe.
And then how about the podcast? Is that going to follow with the same name, or?
Yeah, it's gonna follow. It's gonna be called Breaking the Chains podcast. And it's gonna be just like a lot of the podcasts, the sobriety it's faith-based sobriety. So and it's just gonna be leisure conversations, just talking about people's experiences, strengths, and hopes. Kinda get- I really want to gear it to like people that because a lot of people watch podcasting are people that are still in addiction and they don't know how to do it or what to do or they don't think that they can. But probably one of the hardest things and one of the number one things I hear in treatment is how do I live a Friday or a Saturday night when I'm used to drinking and drugging? How do I live that kind of a night and still have fun type of thing? And so hearing it from a bunch of different people from different parts of the country, people start, hey, that probably is true. It's probably accurate. But there is some fun involved with sobriety. So so that's hearing a lot like
Well, and that's the
to
thing. A
the.
lot of times they call it rehabilitation,
Okay.
and it's really habilitation because people haven't learned.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You have to learn how to enjoy yourself, or at least stay. And some of the guys, they don't want to, they don't want to enjoy a sober life, I guess, per se. From my experience from the couple of rehabs that I've either been to or worked at. There's some of them, they just, I don't want to get clean, I don't want to get sober. I mean, that's fine. That's them. But the ones that want to, you show them. There's a couple guys that graduated a few weeks ago, and they live in a sober living house. And I'm Facebook friends with them. I see them on Facebook all the time talking about how they're enjoying life, and it's so much better than it was before. And so, I mean, it's like you said, it's just guiding them and showing them that there's a way.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on today. It was great to hear your story. It's a heck of a story. So if you want to come back at some point when your podcast is getting closer to coming on, I'd be happy to have you back on.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.